on receiving of this award. So thank you very much, Kirsty.
Do we call for speeches? All right, so call to order. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the February 20th, 2024 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 7:05 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Now please rise for the singing of our national anthem. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are several items that have been requested to be pulled from the consent agenda for discussion. Those being items 10B, the departmental update for planning, building, and enforcement; 10C, the departmental update for finance; 10G, the resolution regarding social and economic prosperity review; and item 10H, the resolution regarding the Roma and OGRA return to combined conference.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of the minutes. Oh, sorry, previous minutes. Moved by, there was no changes or notices to amend? Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, February 5th, 2024. All those in favor? Any opposed? None carried. There are no presentations and delegations this evening, so we'll move into action request 7A, approval of the 2023 water and wastewater annual report. Mr. Sege. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-23 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry accept and approve the 2023 annual reports for the Redwood Estates, Lancaster and Glenwalter water treatment plants, and the Lancaster Green Valley and Glenwalter sewage treatment plants. Mr. Sege.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, this evening I am just coming forward as council member. On the last council meeting, I had submitted 8 reports in total, 6, let me backtrack here a bit, 8 in total. 3 for water, 3 for wastewater, 1 for the CLI on the stormwater, and 1 for the CLI on the collection systems. So this evening, I'm just opening it up for questions for council and to look for acceptance of the reports to be submitted to both the ministry and on our websites to meet our regulations.
Were there any questions of council? Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. So this was a question I posed already to Mr. Seguin, but just for the benefit of everyone. One item that I had noticed that, because generally we're well below all of the limits for all the different criteria that we're under in terms of wastewater and water, but one item that was a little bit different and in the past was on the effluent quality in Lancaster, the total ammonia, how it was higher. It's still below the criteria, but there was an increase in the summer, and I just wondered if you could speak to that, please.
So yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. This year, we did see an increase in the total ammonia nitrogen that's coming out of our Lancaster Lagoon. I do believe, looking at previous years and reviewing all the data, typically we sit around 6.0. This year, we were at 11.2, if my memory serves me right. And we have a limit of 13. So we're definitely up there in the 75th percentile range, or 75%, maybe a little bit more off the top of my head. We did do 2 items this year that may have potentially caused it to go higher this year. So one of them would be the CCTV work with the cleaning of the sewer system. So what we would have done was when we clean our systems, we're taking everything all in one lump sum. We're putting it in the lagoon for treatment. So we may have added some hydraulic loads to it, which is just adding more food and more for the bacteria to take care of. Secondly, we also did our dredging this year. So all the anaerobic bacteria or aerobic bacteria inside the lagoon, we would have been stirring it up in order to transfer it. So we may have seen higher numbers in that case as well. These are just my assumptions of why we're seeing it higher this year. Like I said, most years we're sitting around 6. During the summer months, typically we see it lower. So we have 2 different ranges, and I should just mention that during the winter months we're allowed 20 milligrams per liter. During the summer, we have a lower criteria of 13, so we were under, and I do believe we'll continue to be under. I don't foresee any concerns at the present.
All right, any further questions? All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Next up, we have vessel operation restriction regulation, the Raisin River. Ms. McDonald, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-24 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry, and there will be 2 options. Option A supports the vessel restriction along the Raisin River in the Township of South Glengarry from 0.45 meters south of the County Road 2 bridge and extending northwesterly upstream to a point 130 meters east of the Craft Road Bridge, and furthermore that Council of the Township of South Glengarry accepts responsibility for all accompanying signage. That's option A. Option B would be, does not support the vessel restriction along the Raisin River in the Township of South Glengarry from 0.45 meters south of the County Road 2 bridge and extending northwesterly upstream to the western boundary of Lot 5, Concession 1, South Service Road, and furthermore directs administration to notify Transport Canada that Township wishes the restriction to be revoked. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This is an odd one. It's a question that was asked of the Township of Charlottenburg back in the 80s, and there was no record of the township answering, so it's come back to us as a Township of South Glengarry whether or not we would like to support and accept responsibility for this signage. There's a lot of history in the document, including the letters from MNR, I believe now. The file's been handed over to Transport Canada. As you know, as the GM of Infrastructure Services, I'm often not advocating to take on new stuff or accept responsibility for new things. However, in this case, it's my understanding from speaking with people out in the public and in the world that this vessel restriction does help our residents along the Raisin River, and that what I suspect happened was the signs went up in the 70s. In the 80s, the person who had requested them no longer wished to keep them up, so they kind of fell into a state of disrepair, and by the mid-90s, people had perhaps forgotten about it, and there was a high incidence of water skiing along that section of the Raisin River, and then it kind of became a thing again, and the township, we did put up signs, so there are signs up there. They don't comply with the regulation, but we have been maintaining them, so in this case, staff would recommend, yes, just continuing on as is, supporting the regulation and asking Transport Canada to revise what they already have in their act to be a real location. Thank you.
Okay, are there any thoughts from around the table? Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I could go either way. I haven't heard a lot of complaints, and I don't think water skiing is going to be the big issue anymore. I imagine it'll be the jet skis now that'll be the issue. But you said cost to be negligible. I just want to know what you consider, like, you know, like under 5,000, under 2,000?
Excellent question, Deputy Mayor Lang. I would expect we would need to put up new signs every couple of years as they fall down, so a couple thousand here and there. And again, we've already been doing this for the past couple decades, so it's not like it's an increase, it's just we're continuing on what we've already been doing.
I guess I'm fine with it then, keep doing it.
Okay, then we'll go to option A, because if we defeat it, I guess that leaves option B. So that is supporting the vessel restriction and I guess maintaining our level of service. All those in favor of option A? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. Moving to action request 7C, resolution to set budget meeting date. Mrs. Campo, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-25 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby directs that the regular meeting scheduled for March 4th, 2024 be cancelled, and furthermore, that a special council meeting to consider the 2024 draft budget be held on March 4th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. at Tartan Hall. Mrs. Campo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. This report is coming to council by way of the clerk's division, as it's recommending something that is, I guess, off the norm of our procedural bylaws. So we would typically have our regular meetings on the first and third Monday of the month. However, administration, the senior management team has been meeting to try and find a date for us to have our budget meeting, recognizing that everyone has a lot of a busy schedule and lots of stuff coming up in March with March break and vacations and whatnot. So administration is recommending, just due to workload, we believe it would be manageable to have a budget meeting on the 4th of March, which would typically be an evening that we have a regular meeting with the start time at about 5:30. To do so requires a resolution of council, and I will perhaps turn it over to our CAO and/or treasurer if there's anything they might want to add.
Thank you, Madam Campo. Through you, Your Worship, this is just a matter of us expediting the budgeting process for council, and with council's indulgence, we would appreciate the opportunity to have the working meeting on that one evening.
Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate this coming to us, and I mean, I prefer to have our meetings in person, especially when it comes to things like budget. And I think it's also very cognizant of some of the programs that may be going on here, where we have in the past, when we've had to hold the special meeting, we have had to boot one of our user groups, or it makes it very cumbersome for for Sherry Lynn to organize around them, for Miss Harbour, sorry, to organize around with our user groups and what dates might be available and for everybody else to go along. So I appreciate this coming like this, and if staff feels they need an online meeting to pass a few things that are urgent, feel free to, I'm sure we could make time in our schedules that way.
Good point. That's probably for Ms. Haley would be, if you need a committee of the whole adjustment or a public meeting, we'd be glad to meet online to make it work. So thanks for bringing that up. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. No, I agree entirely with Councillor McDonnell. I think this is a really good way of dealing with the situation, in terms of like staff availability and council availability. So I think it's a good, maybe it sounds very creative, but in the end, it's probably like something that, we shouldn't necessarily shy away from when necessary. So thanks.
All right, and I see sorry, I'm just going back to the staff report. There was a date, I believe, I'm just going through Boy information, for the second meeting. Was that part of this? No. Okay, great. Go ahead.
Just to build on that through you, Mr. Mayor, we have earmarked March 22nd as a second date if needed and if everyone's available, but that would be a daytime meeting. Just we wanted to kind of flag that now in the event that we do need to have a second meeting based on hall availability and scheduling. That's looking like a potential date.
Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I'm just fine with it. I think it's a good idea. I just want to know a little bit about how we're going to proceed. It's just a shade less than 2 weeks away. I'm hopeful that we're going to have material to go over ahead of time. And I know last year we had, it was for us, I don't know how staff felt about it, but for a lot of us last year, I found it a bit stressful. We weren't getting as much information as we wanted at a time. We were fighting to get information, and seemed to be a lot of back and forth and this sort of thing. I think we're a council that likes to be quite deeply involved in the budget, wants to see not just a number for each department, but we want to see some nitty-gritty and be able to look at things and compare them to the year before and this sort of thing. So I'm hopeful that I'd like to at least have a week, I think, to go over this. I don't know what everybody else is thinking, but I'm hopeful we're going to get something within the next week then that we can start going through so that we're ready. And then maybe we won't need a second meeting if we can go through this enough ahead of time.
If I may, either the CO or acting treasurer?
Through your worship, I'll defer to Kaylin McDonald.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our plan is to provide a copy of the working documents by Friday afternoon or Friday early evening, if depending on when SMT gets the presentations in. So.
I believe in the past there has been Saturday afternoon delivery too, so okay. So that works for everyone so far. I know that the 22nd you may have to take a day off school, but it's one of the big things we do, so I'd hope you can pull that off. That's okay. Thank you. All right, all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Moving into bylaws, extension agreement, appointment of integrity commission. Whoops. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-26 be received and that bylaw 2024-09, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 7918 for the appointment of an integrity commissioner, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 20th day of February 2024. Mrs. Campo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. As outlined in my report, back in 2018, Council appointed an integrity commissioner, which is required through the Municipal Act. The integrity commissioner who we appointed at that time is Tony Fleming of Cunningham Swan, legal firm out of Kingston. All of the lower tiers and as well as the upper tier, SD&G, have entered into an agreement with Mr. Fleming purposefully in order for us to have a consistent integrity commissioner through the region, and that provides consistency for our members who are also members of county council. So you're not trying to juggle two different codes of conduct. So it's a consistent effort through the region. So our original agreement has come up for renewal. So essentially, the agreement that's before you this evening is to continue with our current integrity commissioner, Tony Fleming, subject to any questions or concerns of council.
I guess just to make a question, did we have the need to use them, and if so, were we satisfied?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, since we've retained Mr. Fleming, I believe there has only been one occurrence where I've had to engage him on a code of conduct complaint, which it turned out to be unfounded, and the experience was no issues or concerns from administration, and I know that he is available to members of council to provide advice, and many of you have engaged him in that regard. So. You may have had your own experiences with him as well.
Okay, excellent. All those in favor? Carried. Item 8B, Earthquake Early Warning System Agreement, Natural Resources Canada. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-27 be received and bylaw 2024-11, being a bylaw to enter into a license agreement with His Majesty the King in right of Canada, represented by Minister of Natural Resources Canada, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 20th day of February 2024. Mr. Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an interesting project that we've been approached by Natural Resources Canada. So they're looking to develop an earthquake early warning system for at-risk areas of the country. The system is a series of seismic sensors placed in certain locations that will monitor earthquakes and give advance notice to other regions. They have reached out to us advising that the Lancaster Fire Station is an ideal location on this system, this grid, And as such, we've done some investigating and some conversations back and forth as far as confirming that it is a suitable site. They would like to proceed. They're confident that it is an excellent site. The equipment will be located in the basement. It'll have a seismic sensor that goes down, to some degree, into the ground. It's about the size of a small cabinet, which so we really won't take up any space. The power needs of the device are very, very minimal, as noted in the report. Natural Resources Canada does offer $200 per year, for clarity, $200 per year, just to compensate for some of those power needs and some of the internet needs that will be used by the device. In the report, we've attached a draft agreement, and Ms. Campo, if you can clarify or maybe add on to this afterwards, but this project has come into play in a fairly rapid succession. They would like to get started right away, so we added a draft agreement that they had proposed. The agreement that's in the agenda marks it down that there will be no payment, annual payment from the Natural Resources Canada. A revised document that I think we have in our hands now, but it was too late for this agenda, is corrected to show that that payment is included. So as far as the budget, cost to ourselves will be very negligible, and we will be compensated $200 per year for the device. So I think it's an excellent project that we can be part of. It'll be interesting to see how the technology and the results play out. I mean, we had a seismic event, 3 weeks ago that in our area. We know that we're at a fairly high-risk area, so it'll be interesting. So thank you. If there's any questions.
Councillor Bougie.
Through Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Fire Chief Robertson. I was just curious as to the costing. So they came up with that $200 per year amount. I mean, to me, I feel like that's a great deal on their end, being that we are supplying the power, internet. Now, this device, is it going to be, I guess we don't know, but is it going to be shooting data consistently so that it's affecting our bandwidth and our rate, I guess, of internet? And the other question I had was to access for maintenance. How's that going to work, and how are we going to be compensated for that if it's needed?
Sure. So if I start with your last comment, as far as access, part of the agreement is that they will require access to the building to do maintenance to the unit. It doesn't sort of speak to frequency of that, but it does state that the timing will be, in office hours, so it shouldn't be an issue. I don't think this is something where they would, if it was offline, there would be an urgency to bring it back online for any reason. So I think it could wait to a schedule that meets everyone's availability. As far as cost goes, their literature speaks to the power usage would be comparable to a 20-watt light bulb, so in essence, no power usage. The data they also mention is quite low in the way that they packet the information. So on the exterior of the building, they will be putting a receiver antenna to transmit further information, but so there'll be both that device and the internet connection. So.
Just a supplemental, is this a 20-year agreement, is that correct? For 20-year term?
It's actually longer than that. I'm going to state it's 50 years, but it's 30? Oh, yes, till 54, I think that's right, yeah. So it's a 30-year agreement. There are provisions for either party to step out of the agreement. As far as the $200 per year, that is the set rate that they're doing for all agreements across the country. So it's just sort of a blanket fee. So.
Councillor Jaworski.
The termination, clause is that either party, it's 3 months written notice. So, I mean, I think if for some reason it becomes onerous, we're not stuck in it forever.
All right, all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. We'll now move into items for consideration. 9A, potential roads capital works. Mrs. McDonald?
Thank you. Oops. Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This is similar to what I brought forward at our last council meeting with the bridge, the bridge items for consideration. Yep, that's what I'm going with. This is the proposed road work in advance of budget, so if there are any questions or surprises on there, you're welcome to ask. You'll know, so I didn't put a sum on here, but the total of this work is $1.5 million. And if you go back to your council agenda from last council meeting, the bridge work is $750,000. One of the notes that council had made last year was that infrastructure was not quite enough. So this is a bit of an expansion of that plan, and it follows a bit from our committee of the whole meeting in November, where we've carried forward $790,000 of asphalt work. We have the Tyotan wall. We have $300,000 of surface treatment plus some culverts. The culvert bucket really is, if things go over, we'd eat into that and we do what we can with what's left. So the capital program wouldn't be committing to these culverts, but saying we would do what we can with what is available after all the tenders come in. Thank you.
All right, before going to Deputy Mayor Lang, I know that there was some discussion on North Branch and Cemetery Road, so I don't know if that's what you will ask, but those are things that I understand then from reading this, maybe not recommended by administration, but I know it was some direction that we had provided, so that would be something that we would discuss at budget. And would you happen to know how much that would be, like those amounts would be?
Good question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Their absence is mostly we had a number to try and hit to keep the other numbers in check, so things had to be on a list, and we can certainly shuffle things around. But last year, I'd provided the number for North Branch of 235,000 and Cemetery of 170, so up that by a couple percent. So let's say 245 and 190. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Lang, and I thought I saw Councillor Jaworski's hand up, so in that order, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Give me those numbers again. North Branch 225?
So North Branch, let's say 245.
245.
And Cemetery 190, and my quick math says that's about 435,000.
Okay.
Is that my math right? People who math.
Thank you. So back to the report at hand that we're dealing with. I do appreciate those numbers because I'm trying to think today whether we had made any promises on those two roads, and it's a tricky situation for me we're approving stuff to go ahead with stuff without having seen any budget numbers, and it's a little bit uncomfortable. But at the same time, I know you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because you got to get tenders out and you got to get moving on this stuff, or we're going to be, out of the queue as far as getting things done, I think. So I'm going to speak specifically to the 30,000 to downgrade concession 4. I did see the email today. Appreciate Stephanie sending in the question and you responding to it. For myself, I would take it out totally. I'll agree with what was in the email. I did drive the road. I agree that the edges are creeping in. Likely mostly due to farm equipment. It's a heavily used road with farm equipment, but at the same time, when I drove that road, I drove a few other roads, this was yesterday, and it was much more pleasant driving that road than it was any of the gravel roads I was on. So if I was a resident there, I would want to keep that road as long as I could possibly squeeze some use out of it. I was happy to see the dates in the email, so it looks like we're approaching, 13 years that the township has survived. And it's just the edges. I'm curious whether we could investigate doing some edge work. There's I know Councillor McDonnell sent me a picture of a machine that goes on a skid steer that does, puts asphalt just on the edges, whether we could do something like that and extend the life a little more. But I mean, that's something to talk about for another day. But I'd like to see that taken out for sure, myself anyway. We'll see if I get support around the table. The other ones, my question, I guess, would be on the other ones, if we were to approve this tonight, and then let you go ahead and start putting stuff,
There's no resolution on this. This is just kind of
just a
like,
direction then?
kind of trying to get tentative direction and to see if.
So if we
we're-
give the direction then tonight, do you go ahead and try to get tenders out? Would we have those numbers by, like, I'm just wondering if we'll have anything firm by the time before we do budget or not?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor. All these tenders would go out after the budget is approved in principle on March 4th, 5th, 3rd, 4th. Thank you.
So is this just a heads up then of what we're going to see in budget?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Because it really
absolutely.
means nothing if we're not approving anything and you're not putting anything out.
No, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. It's if anything here was like a whoa, then we could course correct in the next 2 days before the budget package got to you folks.
So this is just information that this is possibly coming in budget. Okay, I guess, well, if there's nothing to prove, I'm fine with it, but I will give you my opinion that I'm not interested in tearing up concession 4.
Councillor Jaworski, and then we'll go to Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. While it is an information report, I do appreciate receiving it so that we have a chance to have these sort of discussions about things that maybe we think are surprises or ones that maybe we want to give indication to staff we'd like to see reappear. So I'm on the same page as the Deputy Mayor. When it comes to concession 4, I would much rather nurse it as long as we can. I did drive it. It didn't seem all that bad. And if there are creative solutions to maintain the edges, that would be, I think, is really good. But I mean, specific to that one too, it fits like really, I think, into this road rationalization conversation we want to have. And, you know, because this one is so heavily, I mean, there are residences, but they're not that many residences, but there's some, you know, very large dairy operations. I think we have to keep that in mind too. We don't want to be creating a situation where, you know, where they have, you know, very frequent trips coming in, milk truck. I mean, when I drove it, that's what I was crossing. I wouldn't want to create a situation where now it makes their business, like it negatively impacts the business as well, right, within reason. So, and I think that's why road rationalization, it would be good a conversation to have with the Ag Committee to understand where these roads are. And maybe, again, ideas off the top of my head, maybe if it is an edge situation and it is because of agricultural equipment, maybe for certain roads, having a wider path or having like a wider lay of whatever the surface treatment is, maybe that would be an alternative. Again, just like thinking outside the box, you know, creative solutions, but again, keeping in mind what is the utilization, and that's what's great about the data that we're collecting when it comes to traffic counts, but I think we also need that other perspective too when we're starting to look at the rationalization. So yeah, I'm not in favor of tearing up or downgrading, I should use the term downgrading concession 4. When it comes to North Brampton Cemetery, I could probably get, I mean, it all comes down to where the budget sits, and I'm assuming we're not going to have really any discretionary money, and we'll probably be, you know, cutting things out that we think are very important. So maybe North Branch, but I mean, I don't see, I mean, I certainly don't see a situation where both are possible. But I'm comfortable with the list that you're presenting, minus concession 4 downgrade.
Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I do appreciate getting this information. I know, albeit just an information report ahead of time, it's nice that we're not essentially wasting time with the budget calling outraged when we see it. So I do appreciate this. I 100% agree. Concession 4, I'm not interested in downgrading any surface. I'd agree. I'd rather see if we could find a way to put an overlay of asphalt maybe on the edges, or if there's some creative work. Don't take the 30,000 out. I think you leave it there, and hopefully it carries you through the large culverts, or we invested in maybe some kind of ditching or some work along that road to maybe help alleviate some of the issues that might be causing the surface to go. But no, I'm in essence, I like all these. I'd rather see an addition of another road to it as well. I mean, we've all heard numbers floating around as to what the budget may be. We're not sure where it's going to come in until we get it end of this week. But for large, if there's a potential large increase, there better be a lot of roads on it, in my opinion. And we're going to have to trim what we can. Because it's, I think the infrastructure is what people want to see, especially when we're talking major increases. So I guess we can discuss that at our budget and as we get it and work our way through it. But as of now, I like these projects, especially happy with Second Line Road, but the concession forum, absolutely non-starter. Thank you for the report.
Before moving to Councillor Bougie, will of council then is to remove that. Councillor Bougie.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Definitely getting some static here. Thank you, Ms. McDonald, for the report. It is nice to see what's going on, and then the mapping included was a nice touch as well. I'm going to echo the sentiment of council. I mean, I agree. I think residents really appreciate that surface treatment opposed to gravel. And then we don't have to do dust suppressant on top of that. And I mean, this is a good starting point. But I guess it's all going to lead into our budget and the funds that are going to be ultimately available for us. I guess the question I can throw back to you, if we weren't going to do North Branch and Cemetery, would there be other roads that we would be considering on other than those that's a high need road? You don't have to answer that right away, but but I did appreciate the data that you did give us for the roads in the township and ones that were near to be completed. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Ms. McDonald?
Thank you, and through Mr. Mayor, tough questions tonight, Councillor Bougie. If the money was being diverted towards asphalt roads, we could look at South Service and getting that extra lift on. It's currently one, and it takes a beating all the time. So that would be one area where you could divert. If you want to keep it in surface treatment, you might want to look at something like Glenroy Road, which is also showing similar signs of deterioration as concession 4. And I'm just running through numbers in my head, when we hot patched concession 3 in 2023, I believe the number that came up, because it's incredibly expensive to do like short hot patches like that, I think the number we'd come up with was about $100K per kilometer. So if we take out the downgrade for pulverizing and leave the 30,000, we could see what we could do with asphalt stripping along concession 4, and that might meet the needs, because that 30K would far exceed my hot patch budget with what we were planning on doing for our small hot patches. So I guess South Service, Glenroy, or we could hot patch the edges of Chapel. No, concession 4. Good try, Councillor McDonnell.
Well, and that's a wonderful thing is administration can bring forth recommendations and the council can bandy about where they want levels of service. So it's always fun to hear, and I'm glad to be part of those conversations because, yeah, we're all trying to do the best for our roads. I will, if I may entertain a slight bit of your time, would be, I'm very much with Councillor McDonnell. If additional dollars need to be put towards the budget, that might be an unpopular budget depending on, again, bandied numbers is like, it would be to me, would be roads and bridges is where I'd like to see money go because, but that will have to come up once we get the whole budget. So just to put that out there into the universe that I'm not really myself afraid to be unpopular to try and build a good roads budget amount. And thank you for the numbers. Moving to, and you have direction enough to proceed. That 30,000's off. Second item for consideration, RRC tree giveaway. Mr. Robertson.
Thank you, through your worship. I had a great email exchange with Sherry Lynn Harbers, our GM of Parks, Rec and Culture, just before the meeting, and it was exploring the concept of perhaps speaking with the Conservation Authority about holding a tree planting event for the municipality, specifically for South Glengarry. And she reminded me that that's not an unusual occurrence. We've done that in the past. So I just wanted to draw council's attention to that, and subject to council advising us not to, then staff would be exploring that potential with the Conservation Authority.
Are there any questions? I think it's generally a thumbs up just to get direction. Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll proceed with that. I'm sure the RRCA will be happy to hear that. Support resolution fire apparatus lifespan. I have a resolution here. It was moved by Councillor Jaworski. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Just write that down. So moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby supports the resolution passed by the County of Prince Edward and the creation of a new community fire protection and fire prevention insurance system that does not put all municipalities under the same umbrella with distinct categories for rural and urban municipalities. And furthermore, that this resolution be sent to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and the County of Prince Edward. Any discussion on the matter? All those in favor? Carried. Moving into the consent agenda, there were a few items pulled, plus one, I guess a few means three, so several. 10B, Department Update, Planning, Building, and Enforcement, January 2024. I believe this was Councillor Jaworski. Or, no, sorry, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I'm just trying to find the one, okay, under GIS and planning, and it's just a small thing, but it lists performed duties as building information officer. No, that's not the one. But anyway, there's a few spots in here where it mentions something that staff has done, and it doesn't identify who the staff is. And I'm just thinking we're a small municipality. It would be nice to use people's names rather than, building information officer one or whatever it was there now. I'll likely never find it if I'm trying to find it in a hurry here, but I just wondered if we could maybe just use people's names when we do these reports, if there is something specific that a person has done.
Okay, is Council 1 interested in that? Does that seem like something? And then to have more specific, because we are a small municipality, Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll agree with the deputy mayor. If perchance, one of us are down at the municipality and we see it where one of our building staff has just passed another certification course or something along those lines, it'd be nice to just be able to recognize them in passing and just say congratulations or to whoever it may be, or just general email updates or something. It'd be nice if it's in there. People might like to see it, so it's good to build up our staff.
I found it, if you're interested. It just says, Building Official 1 successfully completed the AH on-site sewage systems examination. I just don't know who that is. I'm thinking it might be Erica Rose, but
No.
I just thought maybe the name should be there.
That's fine. We'll go to Mrs. Haley to maybe provide that name. And then I do think it's a good idea, especially with that specific, because we don't need to label everything like, Kelly went to meeting, but that is a good point, that when good news happens, we should put a name to it. So, Mrs. Haley?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is Erica Rose Burgess, who has the title of Building Official 1/Building Information Officer. So I will add names from now on. Thank you.
And I suppose that would go across departments, please, not just to you. That's all, Deputy Mayor Lang?
That was it. Just wanted to make sure I knew who it was.
Well, while we're on keen eyes, Deputy Mayor Lang noticed 59 million versus 58 million in our county bylaw today, so applaud him for just saved $1 million, so it's for the SDNG. So, as my friend Wes would say, big ups, Mr. Deputy Mayor Martin. Department update for finance. I believe this was pulled by a few people, but Councillor Jaworski, I think your name was on it. Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. And just as a general comment, I mean, I do definitely consult these departmental updates, and as Deputy Mayor Lang pointed out, it's nice when there's good news that we are able to send kudos the right way. So the reason I pulled the finance one was I wanted to thank Ms. MacDonald for the detail that she provided on the tax arrears update, and that clearly there's been some really good continuous progress on that over the past year, and that's great to see. And I guess I also just wanted to say that, like this forum, providing this kind of update, sort of quick and short and within a departmental update, I think is, I really appreciate that. And I hope it's, it saves from having to do, perhaps at another point, a staff, more, a staff report that takes more time, because I think this is the level of detail required, and this is the kind of update that I really appreciate receiving. So thank you.
I had also pulled it for the same reason. I was just going to say thank you for doing it in 2018, and thank you for again doing it in 2023. So the efforts were both Ms. MacDonald. Deputy Mayor Lang.
I'll echo that and just say keep it up. Let's not let it get back where it was.
Agreed. So Resolution Social and Economic Prosperity Review, AMO, I believe this one was me, and I just wanted to highlight the item where it said 1/3 of things have been downloaded, or 1/3 of our funding has, so 1/3 of our costs are, have been downloaded from the province, and just to highlight to everyone the, what we already know is it'd be nice to receive some money. We had some pretty heavy discussions at County Council regarding social services, and those are typically under the purview of the province, and they seem to be slowly making their way to municipalities, whether it be lower tier and upper tier. So they had a good resolution there. I don't know if we'd like to support it. Great, okay, great. Then could we have a support resolution for next time? Excellent. Moving on to, did somebody else want to speak on that? Anyone else? Councillor Jaworski?
Like, just for the benefit of the public, like, this resolution, I mean, this is what, like, the AMO, and I guess at Roma as well, they were asking all municipalities to support, something along this lines, and, it's talking about social and economic prosperity review, but essentially this is, like, asking for a new deal, as an expression in terms of how, what municipalities are responsible for and how we're funded. And, when you see cities like Toronto, obviously we have unique challenges, but who are getting, very specific money and also have like the lowest property tax rates of all the municipalities, it makes sense that we should, like, this is something that we should all be looking at and seeing how this is structured so that it is more fair across the province.
All right, so support resolution. Oh, yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll add just a little bit, and you kind of alluded to it at County's Council today. Budget was already passed, but we've just added $300 and some thousand, taking out of reserves on top of what we had budgeted for to support programs that the province has been supporting and now have been dumped on us. And programs that are designed to help the most vulnerable in our communities, which we feel we should do, and it's the right thing to do, but it's just the province is dumping them and hoping that we'll pick up the slack. And we need to have a conversation with the province and decide where things should be and get them straightened out.
And if I may just belabor it slightly longer for those curious, would be it's about was 100,000 increase to shared services, which is like Glenstore, Dunn Lodge, ambulance, etc. I believe it was around $60,000 to $70,000 for the Social Development Council, and 100 and some for the Last Resort Fund, brought to you by the United Way. So that's where that 300,000 came from, if you want specifics. All right, moving to resolution, Roma and OGRA return to combined conference. That was Deputy Councillor Bougie. Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe, well, the town of Petrolia had passed a resolution encouraging the return of the OGRA conference combined with Roma. In the past, this is the way it's been done, and I thought it was very successful and efficient instead of having councils from across Ontario returning to Toronto twice in kind of short order. So I'd like to support this if I think they're looking for support, and if we have to write our own resolution, I think it would be beneficial. Apparently, OGRA did pass a resolution in 2019, and it's kind of been sitting. So maybe with some pressure from the municipalities across Ontario, it might get things moving along quicker.
Thank you. Is there interest? Deputy Mayor Lang, okay, comment first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Councillor Bougie makes some good points. I did talk to somebody up there, and I'm terrible with names.
Is that Karma?
I don't know if it was Karma, but anyway, whoever it was, it said that it was hard to combine the two. But even if they can't combine the two, if they would have a 2-day conference for each, and we're up there for 4 days, go right from one to the other. A lot of the people at the trade show are the same people. It's one trip, one travel expense. It's one time that we have to take, a certain number of days. I'd be fine with that even, just, 2 days of good roads, 2 days of Roma, and then we're back home instead of, going up 1 month and then going up the next month or a month and a half later for another one and doing the whole thing over again. So I think there should be some way we can make this work.
Perhaps a resolution that supports this, but also suggests perhaps having them concurrent, the things. Is that possible to write a resolution that supports this as well as says, if not that, then concurrent? Excellent. And I saw nods, so we're good there. Thank you. So now I'll read a resolution for the consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, before going into closed, we will be appointing our CAO as deputy clerk or acting clerk so that we can have some of the conversation. I'm sorry. I'll have the resolution. So I guess can I have a mover and a seconder to bring it forth? I know that it says here. Okay, moved by Trevor Bougie, Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. That's because it's written here, so it keeps it simple. Everybody moved in second. Be resolved that Doug Robertson be appointed acting clerk for an item in closed session related to personal information about an identifiable individual. All those in favor? Carried. So now we will move into closed session. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that council convene to closed session at 7:55 p.m. to discuss the following items under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act, SO 2001. 2, a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, specifically staffing matter, 2 items. D, labor relations or employee negotiations, specifically labor relations, 2 items. K, plans and instructions for negotiations, specifically instructions for negotiations, 2 items. All those in favor? Carried. So we will now go into closed session and reconvene later this evening. Thank you to all those in attendance, and thank you to staff for participation this evening. Have a good evening. Welcome back. Coming out of closed session, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that council rise and convene at 10:58 PM into open session without reporting. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that administration be directed to carry out all actions as specified in closed session minutes. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that that bylaw 2024-10 being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, ratify matters dealt with by resolution be read a first, second, third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 20th day of February 2024. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair, 11 PM. All those in favor? Carried. Have a good evening, everyone.